The Wicked Queen of the Night. This is a true African folktale. The queen in the forest was the scariest word is someone mentioned. Almost everyone would freeze. No wonder only visitors could mention her innocently, but also. I never forget the night I first heard the whispers about the Wicked Queen. It was a night much like any other, but something felt different. There was an eerie stillness in the air, almost like the world was holding its breath, waiting. I was just a boy back then, living in a small village deep in the forest. We were used to stories being told around the fire, but this one, it was different. It wasn't just a tale, people said it had happened. It was said that deep in the dark, forbidden part of the forest, there lived a queen. But she wasn't any normal queen. She was a wicked queen. The elders warned us to never speak her name aloud, as doing so could summon her. And no one wanted that. They said she ruled the forest with dark magic, and anyone who ventured too close would never return. One evening, my uncle, a hunter, went missing. He was a brave man, always laughing, always telling jokes. But that night, he didn't come home. My family searched the forest, calling his name until our voices were hoarse. But it was as if the forest had swallowed him whole. The villagers whispered it was the queen. She had taken him. But no one dared to enter the forbidden part of the forest to find out. They were too afraid. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind raced with terrifying thoughts. What if the queen came for more of us? What if she was watching? I tossed and turned, unable to shake the fear that something was lurking in the shadows outside our hut. And then, there was a knock at the door. I froze. Who would be knocking at this hour? My heart pounded in my chest as I tiptoed to the window. I peered outside, expecting to see someone from the village. But there was no one there. Just the dark, silent forest. I didn't realize it then, but that was the first sign that something terrible was coming. The disappearance of my father. The next few days were a blur of panic and confusion. My father, one of the bravest men in our village, decided he couldn't sit back and do nothing. He gathered a small group of men, armed with torches and spears, and set out to search for my uncle. I begged him not to go. Everyone knew the queen didn't just take one. She always came back for more. But my father was determined. "We can't live in fear," he said, patting me on the head before he left. "I'll be back before you know it." But he didn't come back. Days passed, and there was no word from him or the others. My mother grew pale, her eyes red from crying. The village elders gathered and whispered among themselves. Some said we should send more men to search for them, but others argued that it was too dangerous. We'd already lost too many. I couldn't sit still any longer. My father was out there, and I wasn't going to wait for the queen to come for the rest of us. One night, when the village was asleep, I grabbed a small knife, wrapped myself in a blanket, and snuck out into the forest. The trees loomed above me like giants, their twisted branches reaching out like claws. Every sound made my heart race, every crack of a twig, every rustle of leaves. But I pressed on, determined to find my father. The deeper I went, the colder the air became. It felt unnatural. The kind of cold that crawls under your skin and makes your bones ache. And then I saw it. A clearing in the trees, bathed in moonlight. In the center stood an ancient, crumbling palace. Vines twisted around the stone walls, and strange symbols were etched into the doors. This was it. The queen's lair. My heart pounded as I approached the entrance. Something told me to turn back, to run, but I couldn't. My father was in there. I was sure of it. I pushed open the heavy wooden door, and what I saw inside made my blood run cold. The face of the queen. Inside the palace was a darkness like I had never seen before. It swallowed everything, making it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. But as I stepped further in, I heard something soft, like the sound of someone whispering my name. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. The whispering stopped, replaced by a low, sinister laugh that echoed through the halls. I gripped my knife tighter and forced myself to keep walking. And then, I saw her. Sitting on a throne made of bones, her eyes glowing in the dark, was the queen. Her face was pale, almost sickly, and her long black hair hung in tangled strands around her shoulders. But it was her smile that terrified me the most. It wasn't a smile of joy, it was a smile of hunger. "You've come a long way," she said, her voice smooth and chilling. "Just like your father." My heart dropped. She knew everything. "I want him back," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where is he?" The queen's smile widened. "He's here, with me. But he's no longer the man you remember." I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I spun around, ready to defend myself, but when I looked up, my heart shattered. It was my father. But he wasn't the same. His eyes were empty, his skin pale. He was under her spell. "Father," I whispered, stepping closer. But he didn't respond. He just stood there, motionless, like a puppet. The queen's laughter filled the room, echoing off the walls. "He belongs to me now. Just like your uncle. Just like you will, too." I felt a wave of fear crash over me, but I couldn't let her win. I couldn't let her take me like she had taken them. Without thinking, I lunged at her, my knife aimed at her heart. But before I could reach her, she vanished into thin air, her laughter echoing in the empty throne room. I was left alone, standing in the dark, with the twisted versions of my father and uncle by my side. I had failed. And now, I was trapped. The queen was still out there, watching, waiting. And I knew it was only a matter of time before she came for me again. The wicked queen never truly leaves. She just waits. And when she wants you, there's nothing you can do. Subscribe for more stories to come. Let me end here for now.